The concept for this psychological thriller was pretty simple, and for it to be filmed in one location, it needs really good writing. And it keeps you going, and it heats up as it goes along. Phone Booth 2002, Colin Farrell. This is when he was like on his hot streak of being in like Minority Report, The Recruit, and playing like the villain's henchman, Kingpin's henchman in Daredevil and SWAT. He's actually on another hot streak right now where he's going to be in the Total Recall remake this summer 2012, and he played the Vampire in Fright Night remake 2011. Anyway, directed by Joel Schumacher. Other than gaying up Batman, he has made some good movies. Look at his filmography. And this was filmed superbly. The concept of this is like a throwback to Hitchcock, almost. And that's the feeling that you get. And I saw it a half a dozen times in the mid-2000s. And then I did some more research on it today after watching it for the first time since like '06, 6 years ago. And the guy who wrote this script, Larry Cohen or whatnot, he originally pitched the concept for this to Hitchcock in the 60s, but it was never made. They say that he couldn't come up with the concept of how to keep a guy in a phone booth for one whole movie. Filmed on one location in 10 days by Joel Schumacher. And once you see the cinematography, it was great for the 21st century. It was perfect for that time, for the phone booths all across America. As we know, we're going out of business or being weeded out because cell phones became more and more popular. By that time, 2002, 2003, mostly everyone 17 and older had a cell phone, majority. And by 2007, pretty much everyone 13 and older had a cell phone. And now as we sit here 10 years later, the majority of everyone who's active in the world has a cell phone. So this was a perfect time, and it really worked into the concept, or they really worked it into the script to make it relevant for the time, because they say it was being scheduled to be taken down. And if you look around, you could still see abandoned telephone booths and payphones everywhere around America, in small towns and whatnot, and gas stations, even gas stations that are active, you know. So he pitched the concept of Hitchcock, like I was saying, and that's what it has. The simple concept of an everyday man, suit and tie, getting terrorized, going through an awful thriller. Oh man. Let me go through this. So let me just basically sum up the plot. Before I get into spoilers, if you haven't seen this movie, let me just go over some things that you might want to know about it. Colin Farrell plays the lead in this. Like I was saying, he plays a cocky, overly confident, basically con man type business agent, talent agent for, you know, up and coming no name actors who think they're going to make it big, and he feeds publicists lies, as they say. And that's what he's basically a scumbag, so they make you hate him. And so the villain, played by Kiefer Sutherland, stalks his victims in that phone booth, and he basically torments and snipes the victims that are immoral because he's bugged the phone booth. And we don't know what window he's in because this is set in downtown New York, even though they filmed it in LA, of course, to save money. Even though it was funded by 20th Century Fox, what the hell. No, but they go hardcore, R-rating, vulgar language throughout. You got to, if it's going to be a film just focused on Colin Farrell's dome. But the energy and the performance is great, and it really keeps you going and on the edge of your seat. It's one of those movies you can't wait to see what happens next, and once you get done watching it, you want to watch it again. Yeah. He forces him to ask Forrest Whitaker's character if he whacks off at night since his divorce. And then he was like, and then he also has this opinion about women's. He really nailed this character and the dialogue for this character, the villain, At first, his lines start off a little whack, but he heats up as it goes along, and he's talking about Colin Farrell. Basically, he's cheating on his wife, and that's the main theme. He wants to admit his lies and whatnot, that he's cheating on him with Katie Holmes' character, and he's just like, what they can't know is what we do to them in our minds, talking about women. And then he asked Colin Farrell how many times he's had sex with Pam at that hotel in his mind. Just a great line for a psycho serial killer. It's like what he would be thinking about at that time, like tormenting, taunting his victim. He gets off on it. And yeah, now I'm going to talk about the ending. So if you haven't seen this movie, go out of your way and see it in the future. Definitely highly recommended. For the ending, he dresses up like a cliche serial killer. He puts the glasses on him. You could see the look. And he goes right up to the phone booth. He frames a guy earlier in the movie. And this is what sets this movie apart from a lot of other movies. 90% of the movies, the villain gets his, The villain either ends up in jail or dead in an action movie. But in this one, he gets away, and it's just classic. I always loved that when I was like 15, 16 when this came out. That's what I really loved about this movie. That's why I watched it so many times. It's because I love to watch movies. I just root for the villain nonstop, and when the villain gets away, it's just, yes, just gravy. Especially for a movie like this, just gravy for the ending. And anyway, yeah, he shows up while Colin Farrell his morphine's kicking in and he's going disillusional. And he's got the sniper in his briefcase and he goes right up to the crime scene and no one's even looking at Colin Farrell, even though the whole nation was looking at him on the television. But you buy into most of the script except for a few things you're like, that wouldn't happen. But anyway, it's easy to fall and buy into it. I've said enough about this. This was JBM. Tell me your thoughts and your experience with watching this movie. And subscribe to VillainNews for more horror movie news updates and villain profiles.